ridhika kutuita ili tutekeleze shughuli muhimu za jamhuri hii yetu. Twakuomba ututeremshie baraka zako sisi tuliokutanika hapa, na utujalie yatende na kufikiria mambo yote yatakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili utukufu na sifa zako ziendelezwe na ili Honorable members, we have the requisite quorum to conduct business.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements. Order number 8, motion, inspection, visits to ascertain the impact of revenue enhancement initiatives on revenue collection.
Order, members. Those members who are coming in loudly can please. Yes. So what remained of this was the question to be put. I can confirm that we have the required numbers. So I put the question, which is that the House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning on inspection visit to the Kenya Revenue Authority offices to ascertain the impact of revenue enhancement initiatives on revenue collections, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, November 26, 2020. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contra opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Order number 9, motion. Approval of nominees to 2 constituency development fund committees.
The Honorable Amunyinyi. I'm sure this is something you can do very quickly. Fairly straightforward one. Just get any particular area you like, and then we'll give you the. You want to do with?
I want to do it here, Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, proceed. Yes, the mic is on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move that pursuant to provisions of Section 43(4) of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015 and paragraph 5, 2, and 10 of the National Government Constituency Fund Regulations 2016, this House approves the list of nominees for appointment to the following 2 constituencies: constituency committees of the National Government Constituency Development Fund laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, June 15, 2021. Mr. Speaker, the constituencies are Kipipiri, 1 member, and Matungu, 7 members of the committee. For Kipipiri, it is compliance with the requirements of the law. A person with disability is being appointed to the committee. While in Matungu, Mr. Speaker, they are fresh appointments pursuant to Section 43(3) of the CDF Act. It is fairly straightforward, like you said, Mr. Speaker, and I beg to move and request the Honorable Wangwe to second.
The Honorable Majority Whip, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to second the motion by the Chair, CDF Committee. Honorable Chair, the way he has said, it's purely in compliance with the law, and it's important that, Honorable Speaker, we get the right persons to help the members of this House, Honorable Speaker, to deliver their mandate in the various constituencies. Honorable Speaker, as we approve these names, our concern is the year has come to an end. And Honorable Speaker, yesterday, the Majority Leader received a message which he confirmed in this House that he got 5.714 billion of the last tranche, Honorable Speaker. Our wish is, and our collective wish in this House is, Honorable Speaker, that let the board not sit on that money. Let the board disperse that money as quickly as possible so that the members can now get money into their constituencies and oversight the various projects that, as we plan to go for recess in the next week or so, Honorable Speaker, let members go and get the money into the account so that they can do their oversight role in the CDF. With that, Honorable Speaker, I second.
Very well. So then I propose the question, which is that pursuant to provisions of Section 43(4) of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015 and paragraph 5(2) and 5 and 10 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Regulation 2016, this House approves the list of nominees for appointment to the following two constituency committees of the National Government Constituency Development Fund laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, June 15, 2021. Kipipiri constituency, 1, the Honorable Moses Macharia, person with disability representative. And for Matungu constituency, Ronald Murono Kamuruti, 2, Faluma Wasaya, 3, Nancy Lydia Mukea, 4, Francisca Wabuyabo, 5, Rose Nawire Makoha, and Franklin Okome Ometi, and Alice Were. Okay, then I put the question, as seems to be the mood of the House, and I put the question, which is that pursuant to provisions of Section 43(4) of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015 and paragraphs 5, 2, and 10 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Regulation 2016, this House approves the list of nominees for appointment to the following two constituency committees of the National Government Constituency Development Fund laid out on the table of the House on Tuesday, June 15, 2021. The names for the member for Kipipiri constituency and Matungu constituency are set out in the order paper. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? Aye. The ayes have it.
Order number 10, the Radiographers Bill, National Assembly Bill number 47 of 2019, second reading.
Okay, honorable members, I have confirmed that we will step down what is coming under this particular order paper, which has been called out, order number 10. We'll also step down order number 11, order number Okay, so we'll step down that particular one. But let me just confirm something. So that one is stepped down. Let's go to the next order.
Order number 11, the Judicial Service Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 33 of 2020, second reading.
That one is also stepped down. So we go to the next order.
Order number 12, the Foreign Service Bill, National Assembly Bill number 8 of 2021, second reading.
The request has been that we step it down, but I think I see the vice chair of that particular committee. Well, we'll step it down anyway. So next order.
Order number 13, the Impeachment Procedure Bill, Senate Bill number 15 of 2018, second reading.
That one is also stepped down. No, that has been agreed to.
Order number 14.
What did you say, the Honorable? Let's confirm that, yes?
I was requested through the Vice Chair to report on the impeachment proceeding bill at second reading.
Did you say to report, or do you want to move it?
To move it, I beg your pardon.
Because the arrangement and agreement which I'm getting from the majority whip is that the matter that we'll be dealing with this evening will be the implementation status on the report on petition regarding deplorable working conditions for workers in Kwale International Sugar Company Limited.
Okay, thank you, Speaker.
So maybe allow me to consult with him again and get to know, probably we will also get the majority leader himself. Then we make a decision on what we need to do. Now that it is clear that we have business, we could look at this one and see whether that one can be placed down. Let's confirm, is that the position? That being the position, we will do yours later. Well, we'll proceed to the next. Just a minute. That's okay now. Now you can proceed, the Honorable. That is of course by Jailak.
Yes,
and
Chair.
you are the one representing. Proceed.
Yes,
Proceed and move
thank
it.
you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read a second time. The bill seeks to provide a general legal framework for the procedure for the removal from office by impeachment of the President, the Deputy President, a Cabinet Secretary, a Governor, a Deputy Governor, and a member of a County Executive Committee. Mr. Speaker, the bill further seeks to give effect to the constitutional principles of democracy and participation of the people in impeachment proceedings as set out in the Constitution as follows. Article 145 of the Constitution, which provides for the removal of the President by impeachment. Article 150 of the Constitution, which provides for the removal of the Deputy President by impeachment. Article 152, which provides for the impeachment of Cabinet Secretaries. Article 181, which provides for the removal of a county governor. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Article 118 of the Constitution and Standing Order 127.3, the committee invited the public to make representations on the bill and sought the views of the Attorney General of Kenya, the Kenya Law Reform Commission, the Law Society of Kenya, the Council of Governors, the County Assembly Forum, and the County Assemblies Forum. The committee received submissions from the Council of Governors, the County Assemblies Forum. The committee observed that the bill does not raise any significant constitutional or statutory issues and resolved that the House should proceed with it. Mr. Speaker, the committee, having extensively considered the bill clause by clause and submissions by stakeholders, recommends that the bill be passed with amendments as proposed in Chapter 4 of the report. I thank you, and I call upon Honourable Sankok to second.
Honourable Speaker, this is a very important bill, and from the onset, I do second this bill. Honourable Speaker, because impeachment of the President, the Deputy President, the Cabinet Secretaries of the national government, the Governor and the Deputy Governor, and the CECs, who are actually like ministers of the county government, should follow a certain procedure because, Honorable Speaker, they handle a lot of public funds, yet we may not be very sure, and the Constitution, we have not aligned the Constitution to a legal framework on the procedure of removing them from office in case they mess up. Honorable Speaker, this one is very important, and it is for this House, and I urge members of this House that let us pass this bill so that we can operationalize it as soon as possible. Honorable Speaker, as I second, and as I go to sit down, I've realized that there is honorable.
You know, I think somewhere along the line you got completely irrelevant, if I'm not wrong. Because what is it, Honorable Adagala? Because, but I don't think they mentioned you. These gentlemen, the Honorable Sankok mentioned.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I have just seen Mr. Honorable Sankok, nominee 001, talking of my color of my dress. Nominee number 011, let me tell you, Honorable Sankok, I'm ANC number 1 and ANC and ANC DNA. All right, Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Now, well, now let's go back to business. Order, honorable members, order. Order, members. I propose a question, which is that the impeachment procedure bill, Senate Bill number 15 of 2018, be now read a second time. Well, I can see the members are anxious, but we can have a few members speaking. And let me see from indication of members who want to speak. Let's start with the leader of majority party. And the rest of the membership who would want to speak, you can actually press the intervention slot briefly so that I'm able to, so that I don't have to pick out your name from the other side. Because we don't need to go through the list if we are not so sure you are going to speak. Yeah. So I see 3 members who want to speak, and therefore those are the ones who will speak. Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. And I rise to support this bill on impeachment procedure. It's one of the bills that have come from Senate. It's been lying, waiting for debate since 2018. So it's something that we also picked our attention, and we thought we need to fast track it. It was passed. It was actually published in 2018, eventually passed in the Senate in June of 2019, and was then referred to this House. And it's been waiting for us to consider it. Let me also thank the Committee on JLAC, Justice and Legal Affairs, for having taken time to consider this, gone through the public participation, and the Honorable Shamala for stepping in for the chair and vice chair who were not there to move. But at least we have the bill moved. Now, when we're talking of impeachment, we really basically, it's a very sensitive issue in this country. It's something that was introduced within the framework of the 2010 Constitution. And especially now, when you're looking at this impeachment, we're looking at mainly what happens within the governors. We've had several attempts at impeaching governors. I believe the first governor that was attempted to be impeached was impeached twice, but survived and is about to finish his 2 terms. And in between, some others governors have actually been impeached and it's been confirmed, and they've gone. So the whole issue of this impeachment, if you recall from the old ancient England, was, I think, through the various impeachments that have been attempted, some successfully, some unsuccessfully, what has lessons learned from that is that there has not been some uniformity in the way the process has taken place. And hence, there was need to have some legal mechanism, some structural, some standardized way of doing it. And this is what this bill is intending to do, to basically create, stimulate the current constitutional provisions in terms of what is impeachable, what is not, how can you be impeached, how can you not. Basically, making sure that all county assemblies then apply some uniform situation. Like I said, when you now look at, obviously, impeachment, it's supposed to be remedying some wrongs that are committed during governance. And when you appear before a county assembly, when you appear before national parliament, and you're being judged, it's not exactly the same as when you appear before a court of law. The standard of proof is probably slightly different, and I'm sure the lawyers in the House will attest to that. And hence, we need to ensure that whatever law is used, whatever process is used, it can protect an innocent person, but at the same time, it should not let the person who has committed high crimes disappear just because of the process that has been applied. So basically, we are talking of here, this law will be targeting the officials who have demonstrated to the county assembly and to the public at large that they're actually unfit to hold office because of the things that they've done. And because also it doesn't end at the county assembly, there are checks and balances to ensure that if there are overlaps in terms of looking at things, then the Senate still has the ultimate responsibility for confirming the impeachment, and people still can have a recourse to a court system. And we saw that in what the actions taken by the county government of Nairobi, which was confirmed by the Senate, is being confirmed by the courts, and people still can go to the highest appellate court for that. So I think what this bill would do is to avoid some of the chaos that we have seen, some of the vengeance that we have seen. Governors have been complaining that they are being impeached by the MCAs because they have refused to offer them trips, because they have refused to do some things that, if you even remember, in the case of, for example, Martin Wambora, governor for Embu, the courts even made an observation, and I quote, that it's not lawful or legitimate exercise of constitutional function for a House of Assembly to remove a governor or deputy to achieve a political purpose, or one of organized vendetta clearly outside the grounds provided for impeachment. And I think that was an eye-opener in terms of, and why he was saved, that in all the things that was happening, it was very clear that beyond the evidence that was being adduced, the evidence was being adduced to fit a certain preconceived conclusion, whereas it should be the other way around. So basically, I've looked at the committee report. I'm very happy with what the committee has done. I'm also happy that Senate took it upon its stride to actually come with this, because Senate is mandated to look at, to protect devolution, and devolution cannot take place and succeed so long as the billions, like the 410 billions that we have sent now to the counties. Over 8 years, if you look at it, we have taken over 2 trillion shillings to the counties. And if we can not show what that money has done in the counties, it shows that some of the money has been leaking and not getting to translated into service delivered for the people. And this law will now help some of those people who can cite unfairness, that there's a proper procedure that's now been used on a standard basis to carry out the impeachment of Governor A. The same law is used for Governor B. The same is applied for Governor C. And I'm sure by the time we are through with this bill, this House will have enriched it a bit to ensure that the standard of proof is good and everyone feels fairly treated in the way they are removed from office should that eventuality come to fruition. So I have faith that this bill will seal the loopholes, and at the very least, the bill should remove that confusion on the intent of impeachment as a tool to engineer good governance as well as confusion in respect to the constitutional standard for impeachable offenses. You know, Honorable Speaker, on a side, I find the whole issue of impeachment from a political process. I've been a victim in this very House of some, I'm not sure whether it was impeachment, I don't know what it was, because of purely from a political angle. And in those days, it was so easy. Somebody just brings a motion, although the standing orders were very clear that you cannot discuss a member without giving 3 days notice. For some reason, all those things were thrown out of the window. A notice was given in the morning, and in the afternoon, there was a debate on the floor of the House to discuss me, regarding totally disregarding the standing orders that said you cannot discuss a member without 3 days notice. And if it's a government, you are supposed to give 14 days notice. It was 2 weeks notice. But now the discussion was not even on Amos Kemunya, but on Minister for Finance, which is discussing the government. Required 2 weeks notice, but it was given in an afternoon. Morning, and in the afternoon, there was a discussion. But that's historical. But the lesson we learned from that is what informed the changes that took place within the Constitution, within the law, in terms of how you can impeach a cabinet secretary, right? Because I took personal initiative to ensure that within the Constitution of 2010, that future cabinet secretaries were protected from unfair impeachment because you have disagreed with a member at the lobby, and he comes and says, we are going to impeach you. And we saw within the 10th Parliament, there was a lot of those threats to impeach. But now, when things are codified within the law properly, everyone feels protected. Yet, if you're guilty, you'll still be found guilty anyway. But at least you're not subjected to having to negotiate that if you lobby well, we will not impeach you. But if you don't lobby well, like I couldn't in those days, then you're told you have to go. And at the end of it all, the rest is history. But I'm happy that at least now we have formal frameworks in terms of how you treat people so that the good can continue and those who are fallen by the wayside can be sorted out. The wheat and the chaff can be separated. Honorable Speaker, I do not wish to continue on a clause-by-clause basis because it's very clear. And by the time we go to the committee stage, we'll be looking at whatever amendments we need to make to ensure that this law becomes the best law in terms of impeachment, especially for people at the counties. And for members of this House who want to be governors, I would want you to seriously review this law because it could apply to you. So even as we're passing this, because I know there's a number of members here who have expressed that they would want to move to the counties as governors, it will be important that you spend some time and look at this law so that as we pass it, you don't say, was I the one who passed? Just like some members in the Senate keep saying today, they were there in Naivasha when we were passing the 2010 Constitution, and they downgraded the Senate to a lower house. And they became the first one to actually want to go to the Senate and complain that the Senate is a lower house, yet we are the ones who did it at that point. What goes around turns around. Let's be careful. With those words, I beg to support.
Very well. So the next speaker would be the Honorable Akoth Odhiambo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I do support the impeachment procedure bill and agree with the majority leader that it is indeed important that we have this so that we remove subjectivity and bring objectivity in the issue of impeachment, so that people like the former governor of Nairobi, Honorable Sonko, who do not complain and end up working in Mjengo because he has lost his livelihood. Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that listening to the majority leader, I think he needs also psychosocial support. Mr. Speaker, I know the reason he needs psychosocial support is because he keeps talking about the way he was impeached on the floor of this house, and I was one of the ones who impeached him. And we shouted very loudly, Kimunya must go. Mr. Speaker, I don't remember why he had to go, but at that point it made sense. And having said so, Mr. Speaker, I'm not saying that he had no reason not to go.
Who did you say requires social?
He needs psychosocial support.
Who is that? Who requires that?
Kimunya must go. He has now come, so he needs psychosocial support. Mr. Speaker, I just want to say I want to agree with him also that those who are seeking to be governors, this is a law that they need to look at very, very keenly. And unfortunately, I'm seeing quite a number of them are not here. They are probably looking for resources this evening so that they can increase their chances of winning. But this probably is more important because you can win and within 1 month you have left. I want to say that it's basically straightforward, but there are a few things, Mr. Speaker, that I think we need to look into. Mr. Speaker, for instance, one of the things that is said that can be one of the grounds for removal is gross misconduct. Mr. Speaker, what is gross misconduct? You know, gross misconduct is very subjective. Mr. Speaker, where I come from, when you dance, it's actually considered very nice. And it can even add you votes because you are a good dancer. But when I used to visit my good friend, Honorable Joyce Laboso, she told me, when you come here, just bring gospel songs. Don't bring those dances of yours of Omondi Long Lilo and the rest. So, Mr. Speaker, what is gross misconduct? That was gross misconduct in our constituency is not necessarily gross misconduct in my constituency. And therefore, if we leave it blank by not defining what gross misconduct is, it may be subject to abuse. Mr. Speaker, the other concern I have is if you look at clause 4, subclause 4, we are saying the clerk of the National Assembly shall submit the proposed motion to the Speaker. After how long? Because when people want to play politics, you can decide to submit it to the Speaker after 6 months and you will still be within the law. So you need to tighten such issues so that also the people who actually should be impeached are actually impeached. Mr. Speaker, the other issue that is of concern to me that I wanted to counter-check with the Constitution and I've not had time, I hope I'll be able to have time before it comes to the Committee of the Whole House, is the issue of this select committee, Mr. Speaker, that makes a decision and the decision is final, it doesn't go before the House. Mr. Speaker, it's easy to compromise few people than to compromise the entire House, even though I know sometimes when the stakes are high, that may also happen. So, Mr. Speaker, those are some of the areas that I'm concerned about. Another one that is of similar issues is clause 9, subclause 4 and 5 that also do not give days within which those impeachment procedures should be brought. Mr. Speaker, the other issue of concern to me is also, if you look at, Mr. Speaker, I know there are some of the issues, if I have time, I'll bring, but if I don't, I'm bringing them to attention of the committee so that they can look at it. Mr. Speaker, again in clause 16, we are talking about the select committee. How do you appoint this select committee? Sometimes in politics, what looks like common sense is never common sense. You can find in a house that the ruling coalition can decide, or the ruling government can decide, to appoint, if the speaker is favorable to them, members from the entire government side and ignore the opposition. We have seen it happen in the past. It can happen again. So let us not presume common sense in law. You must write what you intend. So if you are talking about the membership, what is the ratio of government to opposition in that house? Mr. Speaker, or in that committee? Mr. Speaker, again, if you look at the introduction of the motion under clause 21, Mr. Speaker, what I would also want to encourage is that when you are reintroducing a motion, it should not be on technicalities, but it should be on substantive issues, so that we don't then have a situation where instead of a governor working or a president working, you are worried about impeachment motions and motions coming your way. Once it is dealt with on substantive issues, it should be a done deal. Mr. Speaker, again, I can see under 25, clause 25, it provides that Article 182, 4 to 6 of the Constitution shall apply where a vacancy occurs in the office of a governor and that of a deputy governor under this act. I know even though it's tedious, sometimes it's good to replicate, because what I've noticed with a lot of ministries, that they don't go back and refer to the Constitution, but when it is provided clearly in an act of parliament, then they follow what is there in the act of parliament. Finally, Mr. Speaker, in terms of what I would want to say in this, in the provisions that I've raised that are of concern to me, again in clause 32, subclause 2, it says all proceedings under this act shall be open to the public unless in exceptional circumstances where the person presiding over the proceeding has determined that there are justifiable reasons for the exclusion of the public. What are those justifiable reasons?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity also to speak into the impeachment procedure bill, Senate Bill number 15 of 2018. I want to associate myself with the comments of Majority Leader and the Honorable Medio Thiambo. There are some gaps, Honorable Speaker, that this bill must be able to address, because in principles of management, they say that which cannot be measured should not be rewarded. If we are not able to measure what performance is, then we should not be able to reward it, Honorable Speaker. We have seen governors who have been given opportunities to serve our people, but all they have done, Honorable Speaker, is to enrich themselves. I keep wondering, Honorable Speaker, that what happened to the county governments? We used to have county governments which were collecting so much money, which money was enough to run their counties, municipal council and such like. But after some time, things have changed, Honorable Speaker, until the other day, the governors were giving ultimatum to the government that if they don't receive money from the national government, they will shut down the services. One looks back and wonder what used to happen at those municipal levels, because they were paying their salaries, they were giving services, however, in a small way, but we had service nevertheless, Honorable Speaker. So this impeachment bill or procedure bill will come in handy, Honorable Speaker, to tame some of those excesses that we are experiencing today. I think it's only fair that we have now a tool through which we are going to, manage the impeachment, which is important for the good of the country. Because if we cannot do that, Honorable Speaker, most people who are looking for an opportunity to serve as governors, their main intention is also to amass as much as possible so that they can increase their chances of becoming something bigger beyond the county. But with this impeachment bill, Honorable Speaker, I think people will get into the office knowing that we have a recourse, we have a way of recording them back using a standardized tool which is not subjective, which is acceptable, which is recognized by the law, so that we don't have the scenario like we have in, I think, in Mandela, where we have a governor, Wachia, where we have a governor who has been impeached and he still says he's in office. It's total chaos, Honorable Speaker. And that's all because we have not had this bill in place, but with it now we know what exactly happens. Because the deputy governor has been sworn in lawfully, but the governor, the former governor, still insists he's in office lawfully. So which of the two is serving the public? That is the kind of confusion that we want to cure by the use of this bill. And I think it has come in handy and timely, and we need to move with speed to have it implemented so that our people will be able to get services which they rightfully deserve from the public. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity, and I support, although with some amendments, when it will come to the floor of the House next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Manzo Gitonga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to support this very, very important bill, Mr. Speaker. The impeachment here is not only runs from the president, deputy president, governor, deputy governor, minister, and also the county executive, which had not been documented previously, but it has now been documented. We've had experiences of impeachment cases in the last 8 years for the county governors. There was even one time there was an attempt to remove a deputy governor in Machakos. And again, when it came to Senate, it did not survive. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the wholesome activity, especially in the county level, you will find a lot of times if a governor fails to agree with the assembly, most probably purely for political reasons, then an impeachment can ensue. And then, Mr. Speaker, there will be gaps. And once the impeachment goes up to the final stage, we have seen there have a recourse in the High Court, and we have seen now the governor of Embu has survived through the High Court with the court orders and was able to serve his full term. We have also had unfortunate cases where the governors totally lost, went to the High Court, and also totally lost, and appeals are still lying. And therefore, there was a need to come up with a law which concretizes all the issue in this, with the main reason being given abuse of the Constitution or misconduct of the governor or whoever is being impeached in one way or another. Mr. Speaker, you realize that if you see clause by clause, the committee did a very good job. It even analyzed the constitutional background, what laws now allow this particular bill to come into force, and it is all there in the report. And Mr. Speaker, one of the challenges is the political situation, what it can be if it is moved politically, and if it is perpetuated by malice and the politics of the day prevail. Although the matter still goes to the judiciary, which is very independent, Mr. Speaker, and is expected to act so and to be independent, sometimes, matters or some justice may still fail to be done on the side of the judiciary after they analyze the facts. You may find that whatever that governor will supply fails. And there was a need to stabilize these positions, which are very important, so that the moment you are elected as governor or president, you are not watching your back at all given times. If there is political fallout, Mr. Speaker, you are likely to constitute the necessary numbers for there to be an impeachment on either of all those seats. And that's why, political rearrangements keeps on happening, and probably it becomes very, very expensive for a president or even a governor. And out of political hate, Mr. Speaker, it is very easy to find faults with anyone who is serving any of these seats, which may amount into breach of the Constitution or may amount into abuse of office or all those, or gross misconduct. Because you see the word gross misconduct, Mr. Speaker, it's a very ambiguous word. It's got a lot of, there are so many incidents which may amount into gross misconduct, even from a personal conduct, and even OE from Chapter 10 of the Constitution. One can easily be framed. It may even be framed, it may be a story which is not real. Photographs may have been put into place, or when one is doing private discussion or joking, the matter might end up being taken as a gross misconduct. There's every need to regularize this and to frame it, because now the courts have been grappling around as to what a proper impeachment should be. And although the mandate of Senate is to deal with the devolution, I can also see that they have come to a aim, which is our own, which is started at the National Assembly and then up to the Senate. That is the impeachment of the president or the deputy. It can be done by the two houses, and it was very kind of them to handle also these. Probably they would have chosen to deal with the devolution, the devolved functions. But again, also, you have seen the consequence of this amendment will also affect amendments in the County Government Act, so that County Government Act does not conflict with this new law which is being proposed. The numbers now are specified, even in a case of the county executive or the ministers or secretaries of the county. In fact, Mr. Speaker, quite a number so far have been sacked by the governors. And other than recourse in court, which takes a long time, most of them have just given up, Mr. Speaker. Your governor just simply drops you, either through a letter or you become persona non grata to the county government meetings. There has been very many occasions which has resulted into an impeachment. Even the case of Machakos County government, when the Senate reinstated the deputy governor who had been impeached. Mr. Speaker, he never, when he went back to Machakos, he had no office, he had no official car, he had no salary, and there's nothing he could do, Mr. Speaker. So this particular law is very important. I believe at third reading, we should really warm up to look at amendments which makes it better and seals any loopholes which you have seen in practice now. Bearing in mind, Mr. Speaker, this is purely a political process and can affect anyone, Mr. Speaker, so long as the politics are not on one side and mistakes can be found. And again also, it helps the governors and the people dealing at that level not to breach the Constitution or not to do something which amounts to gross violation of the Constitution. And again, Mr. Speaker, that is subject to interpretation again by the courts. So I still think there's a leeway, wherever it happens, that someone could still find themselves in court, or even the people who are trying to impeach. I don't know really whether they have a recourse again in court. Because if you had moved an impeachment motion and it fails, as it had been suggested in some judgment I've seen previously, does the court have a say on that particular matter, or is it purely a matter of this House? And I think, Mr. Speaker, it should be specified when we finally refine this law at third reading, so that it becomes a good product for use in the country. Bearing in mind, Mr. Speaker, any one of us here, including you, Mr. Speaker, who find themselves either president or deputy president at one point, or governor, and when we make this law, we must know that we are also making it for ourselves. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support.
Very well. So we go to the Honorable Koi Waloke.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me also a chance to speak on this bill, impeachment bill number 15. Senate bill number 15, Mr. Speaker. It was long overdue, Mr. Speaker, for this bill to be brought on the floor of the House, Mr. Speaker, because many of the governors have suffered, some innocently. They have been impeached when the laws had not been put in place, Honorable Speaker. The bill will bring changes in the county government, and even impeaching the president, the deputy president, and also the CSS. Mr. Speaker, although I know to impeach the president is not easy, but it has really mostly affected the governors, Mr. Speaker. For example, like the governor of Nairobi County, Honorable Songo, who has really suffered. He has no job, but he was elected by the people to serve the people of Nairobi, Mr. Speaker. Sometimes, Mr. Speaker, it will control the MCS who are naughty. Sometimes they just decide they want to make money and decide to impeach the governor without any either mistake, because if it goes through to the Senate, sometimes, Mr. Speaker, after doing interrogations, Mr. Speaker, they find out that the governor was innocent. We have been seeing this even where I come from, Mr. Speaker, the governor of Bungoma. Sometimes there's differences between the MCS or leadership of the county, Mr. Speaker, and they decide that the governor must go home. But this week when it came to the Senate, Mr. Speaker, it was proved that it was just their differences there in Bungoma, Mr. Speaker. So it is good that I want to thank the committee that brought this, Mr. Speaker, for us to discuss and pass the laws that will guide and help those who may be affected, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, some people are greedy. And you know, in political wing, Mr. Speaker, sometimes you can be affected innocently. But with the laws in place, Mr. Speaker, if we can put laws in place that can govern, that can help, that can direct how this should be, Mr. Speaker, it will be good for all of us in this country or in political wing, Mr. Speaker. Look at Wajir, Mr. Speaker. Wajir County now has 2 governors. The one who was elected by the people, and he was impeached. And after impeachment, Mr. Speaker, when they appointed a deputy governor who was also sworn in legally, he is in the office, and the court reinstated the one who had been impeached. So to clear the mess like that, Mr. Speaker, I think this is going to clear the mess. This impeachment bill is going to clear the mess like that one. So, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, next is Honorable Atanas Wafula Misiko wa Munyinyi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity also to make some contribution on the impeachment procedure bill, Senate Bill number 15 of 2018. Mr. Speaker, recently I was expressing my anger and displeasure at the delay in bills. This is one such bill, Mr. Speaker, of 2018, like my other bill, which was also of 2019 and committed to the committee in 2019, the same year, towards the end. But Mr. Speaker, now that it is before the House, I want to state that I do support this impeachment procedure bill. The bill is important, Mr. Speaker, because it seeks to clearly provide for the procedure and provides framework through which matters impeachment can be handled. Mr. Speaker, this is also a very important bill because you will agree with me, Mr. Speaker, there has been so much drama about impeachment in the country. And over time, there have been attempts by MCS, by some members of the leadership, to occasion impeachment even when it was not necessary, Mr. Speaker. So with this kind of a law being enacted, it is going to specify, to clearly state what reasons will inform what exactly would be the misconduct that would inform, the decision for impeachment, Mr. Speaker. And this should be defined in a manner that it is simply understood what really would be required to have been committed by a person so that impeachment can take place, Mr. Speaker. You have seen, like my colleagues have said, that some impeachments have taken place, then they are overturned because some are politically motivated. When we differ, like Honorable Waluke mentioned the case of Bungoma, when the senator of Bungoma disagrees with the governor, he goes ahead to organize for impeachment. Impeachment has been the answer, Mr. Speaker, when some of these guys are broke. So there must be clear provision. We must state exactly what would have been committed by one, even if it's a member of the county assembly, executive committee, or a deputy governor or governor, or even cabinet secretary, Mr. Speaker, and president and his deputy. This must be defined beyond doubt so that when we read, we want it clear. Nothing should be hidden about this, the offenses or crimes or misconduct that would have been committed by one. They have to be made very clear. Mr. Speaker, we have seen so much money wasted. There has been wastage arising from these impeachments. People traveling and with trucks carrying many documents to the Senate. Sometimes we even hear some stories, Mr. Speaker. I don't want to go into them, but we get stories when they come, how they come to appear before the Senate, and they report to some officers in town before they go there. So this has occasioned so much wastage, Mr. Speaker. Money that should have gone to development, that should have gone to construction of a road or to develop a county, has been utilized on the road to bring witnesses to Nairobi to the Senate for no reason, Mr. Speaker. I therefore want to express, Mr. Speaker, my pleasure and support to this bill, and I hope that colleagues will support this and have it passed so that the law can be put in place. We have noted that there are some certain issues, provisions that will need to be clarified so that there is no doubt as we move forward, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I also wanted to mention, Mr. Speaker, the fact that as we deal with the issue of impeachment of executive officers, we also have had, like the case of recall for MCS, a recall for members of parliament. Mr. Speaker, that law also needs to be looked at so that those that need to be recalled should be recalled, Mr. Speaker. But there should not be witch hunt. There should not be witch hunt of any form, Mr. Speaker. When you are doing your work and someone is planning how to get you out of parliament or out of the assembly. So the law must also be made very clear on the recall of an MP or an MCA or a member elected to a position, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, all this, if we we strengthen the law related to this, we're going to make sure that there is harmony in the country, that people are going to benefit, there will be more contribution, there will be, people will be working towards enhanced livelihoods. People's livelihoods will be enhanced, and that this country will move a step, Mr. Speaker. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I once again thank you for giving me the opportunity and restate that I support this bill. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable Liaya Misi.
Thank you, Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to also add a voice to this bill. I rise to support. Mr. Speaker, the sovereign power belongs to the people and is only delegated to elected leaders. And it is also pertinent that we give a procedure of taking that power away through impeachment. We've had, of course, we don't have a history of impeachment of a president or a deputy president in this country. But the impeachment of governors has been a daily occurrence, the common phenomenon. And it is paramount that we have a clear procedure to impeach is high. And we also need to bring some sanity to our county governments so that we do not just elect a governor and later on you leave them at the mercy of greedy MCAs or MCAs with different political ambitions. So, Mr. Speaker, it is a bill that is going to help us at the county management of our county governments. Mr. Speaker, we borrowed our constitution from other advanced democracies jurisdictions, not knowing that our society has different aspects of democracy, and therefore is ripe enough to align it so that it aligns to our different heterogeneous society. And it's important that even as we practice other constitutions, we make sure that we align it to our identical society that we are in as a country. So, Mr. Speaker, it is an important bill that is going to guide us to strengthen the devolution. As we talk of more resources to the county government, the BBI talks about more resources, 35%. Let the resources also meet a clear work in county governments with the procedures of removing the governors who will be corrupt, governors who will misuse resources. They'll find a procedure. If you are members who are intending to go for gubernatorial positions with the intent of simply, grabbing as much as they can, then they'll fall into these impeachment procedures that have been laid out so that we curb the greedy leaders who go there specifically to enrich themselves. So, Mr. Speaker, I rise to support and thank you for the opportunity.
Honorable Dr. Odhiambo Aduol.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also want to support this bill. Honorable Speaker, I do so agreeing, as has been pointed out, Honorable Speaker, that it is extremely important given the experience that we have had. Honorable Speaker, we know indeed that sovereign power is with the people, but we also know, Honorable Speaker, that once the people appoint or elect, once the people elect leaders, we would like, Honorable Speaker, as much as possible to have an atmosphere that would enable efficient, effective, and meaningful leadership, even indeed, Honorable Speaker, as we recognize that there tends to be some differences of opinion that could be difficult to grapple. And therefore, as I support this, Honorable Speaker, I'm reminded that yesterday, Honorable Speaker, as we looked at the county government bill, and even today, as we also discussed another bill, there was opinion expressed, Honorable Speaker, that there are times when all we might need to do as we develop bills is just to make reference to the relevant section in the Constitution, because we might not, Honorable Speaker, need to repeat it. Although I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that the Honorable Speaker Omulele indicated to us this afternoon that we need to remember that it is usually important to repeat. This is the main point, Honorable Speaker, that I would want to use as a way of indicating my support for these impeachment procedures. I have looked, Honorable Speaker, at the procedures, and indeed, as had been mentioned by the Honorable Millie Odhiambo earlier, if I look at the procedures for the removal of a county executive county member, the ministers at the county, I see, Honorable Speaker, that we list incompetence, abuse of office, gross misconduct, physical and mental incapacity, and gross violation of the Constitution or any other law. Honorable Speaker, it is in a bill, from my point of view, a bit of a challenge that we would seem to imply that someone can violate the Constitution a little bit. Because one, we are saying that what would be problematic is the gross violation. But much more important, Honorable Speaker, is the ambiguity when we talk about gross violation. And Honorable Speaker, we know from what members have said here and practice that we have a chapter in our Constitution, one that we might want indeed in a number of acts I have seen us refer to, Chapter 6, which if we look, Honorable Speaker, at the points and the concerns that have been raised here, we will see that a key concern has been with regards to corruption, or with regards to lack of integrity, or with regards to clearly demonstrated ways that is, according to our Constitution, seen not to be acceptable for the leaders. And so I support this impeachment bill, Honorable Speaker, because its objective is one that is very important. It seeks to give us very clear guideline. It seeks to give us the procedure that would need to be followed. It seeks to give us a clear indication of where, if it were members of the Senate or the County Assembly or any other body or persons that would be responsible. However, Honorable Speaker, what I hope that as we now come to the third reading might be useful for us to look at, as has been pointed out by other members, is that the bill is giving us clarity or direction in a context where we have experiences. And Honorable Speaker, it is my view that we need to bring the learning from these experiences a lot more clearly and a lot more deliberately. For example, Honorable Speaker, we know that what we would like is to avoid a situation where we would hold hostage some governors, as has been indicated, or alternatively, Honorable Speaker, a situation where we might find that those in leadership, such as governors, might indeed then, on the other hand, sometimes also go a bit overboard. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, as I support this bill, I want us to look at what it is that we have seen, and also, Honorable Speaker, look at it from both sides of the coin. Consider that we would want to see justice, and we would want to see a way in which those who are elected in office, be they president, deputy, governor, and the county executive officers, really can be given justice and can, should the need arise, be presented with a situation where they can defend themselves, because it is by law clear that one is not guilty until they have been proved so. But on the other hand, Honorable Speaker, we also need to be aware that part of the great challenge that is giving us headaches in the county is that somehow at the county level, when one becomes a governor or when you get this power, then you really now do not necessarily need to be that accountable, because you will have other ways or other currencies by which you can get people to respond to what you say. And so, Honorable Speaker, I support, and I want to indeed say that I am not just telling a story. I am aware of a county executive member from my county, actually, Siaya, who, Honorable Speaker, was let go of on grounds of incompetence. And Honorable Speaker, it is not clear how then one defines incompetence. So I support the bill, and I would like, in particular, given the lessons we have learned, given what we know is obtaining, to not go and leave so much ambiguity. When we talk about incompetence, Honorable Speaker, we need to know what it is we are talking about. I think gross misconduct, we also, Honorable Speaker, need to be clear in really what gross misconduct means. And Honorable Speaker, instead of saying that we are talking about gross violation of the Constitution or any other law, the Constitution is a key law from which we can derive a lot of specificity. I would, Honorable Speaker, urge that we actually go directly to Chapter 6, because, Honorable Speaker, if we were to take Chapter 6 a lot more seriously and make it a reference point, I do believe a lot of the issues would be handled. With this, Honorable Speaker, I support and I thank you.
Thank you very much. The mover reply.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I thank all the honorable members for their valuable contributions that have been made with regards to this bill. I'm in absolute agreement that there should be no gaps left whatsoever. We do not want a situation where politicians, governors are spending their entire time putting out fires because of witch hunts and are unable to do what they were elected to do. I want to say that the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee welcomes amendments from honorable members to consider. And with those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to reply.
So then, therefore, I think looking at the numbers in the House, can I confirm if we have members in other holding areas? I don't think so. Honorable members, we do not have the required number for me to put the question, so then that will be deferred for the next available opportunity, likely tomorrow afternoon. So we move to the next order. What is it, Honorable Kaluma? You seem to be having an issue. You have an issue, Honorable Kaluma? I see there is an intervention here.
Oh, I thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I had wished to contribute on this particular bill. Unfortunately, the time has caught us flat-footed. I mean, as Speaker, I'm happy with the direction that we proceed with it tomorrow, because we can't have bills repeating what is already in the Constitution and other laws.
Well, maybe
this is a bill we should reject tomorrow, Mr. Speaker.
You misunderstood this. The matter is settled. It has been replied to. You are a little late because actually I did not see you press the any button here. Well, I didn't see that because I'm here myself. I didn't see. Unless the problem, you remember I asked you to press the intervention slot. So that is a matter settled. Tomorrow it will be put to question. So we proceed to the next order.
Order number 14, the National Cohesion and Peace Building Bill, Senate Bill number 35 of 2018, second reading.
Order, Honorable Oundo. Order. You see, you have pressed the normal button. The guidance I gave is that on this particular one, so that we can be able to know who are contributing in this one, and those who wish to contribute in the next one, should be that they press the intervention slot. So maybe you do not get that one clearly. Yes, Honorable Oundo, what is it?
Speaker, my indulgence, when the decision or when the direction was given, I was not in the House,
yes.
So I assumed it's the normal procedure where you come and
you
key.
Actually, if I can tell you, you are third on the list.
Yeah.
Third on the list. But since I thought, because I did not, there are two things that would happen if I pressed and gave you an opportunity which you did not require. It means you lose out on the order that you had required probably for the next one. And that is why I was very clear. Definitely, Honorable Kaluma did not press because I think he just arrived. Yeah, so
yeah, all of us pressed
actually,
on
the ordinary one, Honorable Kaluma, you are number 6, just after the Honorable Pasaris. So anyway, that is a matter under the bridge.
We'll deal with it in the committee of the whole House.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
Next order. Yes, number 14 is 2 down. So we go to the next order.
Order number 15, motion, implementation status of the report on a petition regarding deplorable working conditions of workers at the Kwale International Sugar Company Limited.
Yes, who is moving this one? Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Speaker, on behalf of the Chair for Committee on Implementation, I beg to move that this House adopts the report of the Committee on Implementation on the implementation status of the report on a petition regarding working conditions at Kwale International Sugar Company Limited, tabled on the floor of the House on the 26th November 2020. Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, the Committee of Implementation is established pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 209 of the National Assembly, which is mandated to scrutinize the resolutions of the House, including the resolutions contained in adopted committee reports, petitions, and also all undertakings given by the National Executive. And in so doing, we will examine whether such decisions or undertakings have been implemented, and where they have been implemented, to what extent they have been implemented, and whether the implementation has taken place within the minimum time necessary. Mr. Speaker, while doing this, I want to acknowledge that the committee faces a number of challenges. One of the major challenges that we face, which the House will need to help us at some point, is that most of the resolutions that are passed by this House, especially petitions, are usually challenged in courts. So that creates a lot of delays in committee making decisions on, or even following up on some matters. The other major challenges is we start playing games. Some of the parties involved play a lot of delaying tactics with the committee, so that you find that now eventually the committee takes quite some time to resolve a matter. But as you know, the standing order number 201 requires that within 60 days of a resolution being made in this House, the committee is supposed to follow up on the implementation of that resolution. Mr. Speaker, this matter arose as a result of a petition that was presented to this House pursuant to Standing Order number 2252A by the Honorable Zuleka Juma Hassan, member for Kwale, on behalf of both the current and the former employees of the Kwale International Sugar Company on the 26th August 2015. So you can see it was even made in the 11th Parliament, not even in the 12th Parliament. And the petitioner requested, Mr. Speaker, that the National Assembly, through the Departmental Committee of Labor and Social Welfare, investigates the circumstances behind the poor working conditions of the workers at the company and intervenes to have the terms of the workers reviewed favorably. Mr. Speaker, our committee took up this task, and we had several meetings with a number of parties. For instance, we had a meeting with the management of the company on the 15th of November 2018, and subsequently we visited the company on the 28th to 31st March 2019, where we held a meeting with the management and the workers of the Kwale International Sugar Company, as well as the officials of the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection in the county. And we had oral submissions and also written submission. Honorable Zuleka Juma Hassan was also in attendance in this inspection visit. We also had meetings with the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection here in Nairobi on the 31st October 2019, and a further meeting with the Kwale International Sugar Company on the 30th of October 2020. Mr. Speaker, we also had a meeting with the late Member of Parliament from Msambweni, the late Suleiman Dori, on the same. Mr. Speaker, when we visited the factory, it was not operational. However, the committee had meetings and also had to look at various facilities at the factory, including the modified trucks for transporting the workers. We also visited the clinic, which has a pharmacy and a laboratory. And we also noted that the factory operations had stopped for 18 months, from June 2018 to November 2019. Honorable Speaker, during our investigation, the committee established the following in regards to the implementation of the recommendations of the Committee on Labor and Social Welfare. Recommendation number 1, Mr. Speaker, was that the management of the company should, within 90 days of tabling the report, issue letters and contracts of appointment to all the employees. Mr. Speaker, the implementation status of this recommendation is as follows. That the company has continued to issue letters of appointment to all the employees before they join its employment. Secondly, the company has formulated contracts for long-serving casuals but had not issued them, and that the process of issuing the contract was to be done on the March 2020, but was suspended due to COVID-19 pandemic. As I'm talking to you now, Mr. Speaker, I cannot authoritatively tell the House the exact situation at the moment. Recommendation number 2, Mr. Speaker, was that the management of the sugar company should adhere to the wage guidelines as per the Kenya Gazette Notice number 91 of June 2015, and also pay arrears for the salaries paid below the legal threshold effective June 2015. And the status of this, Mr. Speaker, 1 is that the company is compliant with the minimum wage requirement as per the regulations of wages, General Amendment Order 2018. 2, the total wage arrears arising from non-compliant with the legal notice number 91 of 2015 had been determined to be 3.69 million. The company liaised to the county labor officer for the cases of employees who have since left employment and cannot be traced, and is awaiting the feedback from the county labor office on the matter. Recommendation number 3, Mr. Speaker, is that the management of the company should provide protective gears and enforce safety measures, regulations, and use of protective gears in the company as required by the law. The implementation status, Mr. Speaker, is that the company has issued requisite PPEs to all employees as per the requirement of the Work Injury Benefits Act, number 13 of 2007. Recommendation number 4, Mr. Speaker, is that the management of the Kwale Sugar Company should provide proper sanitation, food, and water to its employees. Implementation status, Mr. Speaker, is that the company has constructed enough toilets and washing basins for its workers, ensuring that the workers do not queue for long periods to go to the toilet or hand washing facility. And in this case, Mr. Speaker, the sanitary facilities for male are 27 toilets, 22 hand washes, 11 urinals, and 5 bathrooms. And then for the female employees, we had 15 toilets, 11 hand washes, and 3 bathrooms. Mr. Speaker, secondly, the water bossers continue to fetch clean drinking waters for the employees working in the field on a daily basis. 3, we also have a staff canteen in place that offers meals to employees at subsidized rate payable through the check-off system. 4, since the global spread of COVID-19 pandemic, the company continues to implement or adhere to the measures and guidelines put in place by the Ministry of Health and WHO. In the foregoing, the company increased water points and hand washing facilities in strategic areas of the company premises, as well as continuous availing hand washing soap, toiletries, and alcohol-based sanitizers to the employee for use. The 5th recommendation, Mr. Speaker, was that the management of the company should provide better alternative modes of transport for the employees and further provide separate compartments for tools and workers in the mode of transport. Mr. Speaker, during the visit, we were able to confirm that there were 4 trucks, 4 vans, 4 minibuses, which had been modified to provide comfortable, spaced seating for the employees to comply with the traffic requirement and the Ministry of Health and Transport protocols for public and private transport. But the only thing we could not confirm, Mr. Speaker, because the company was not operational then, was for us to actually see the employees in those trucks. We could only see the modified trucks, Mr. Speaker. Recommendation number 6, that the management of the Kwale sugar industry should provide medical scheme for its workers and ensure compensation for those who have been disabled or injured while at work. The status, Mr. Speaker, is that the employees access medical services at the company clinic, and also they have an MOU arrangement with the Msambweni County Referral Hospital for treatment of its employees. Secondly, the Kwale Sugar Industry Company continues to sensitize its employees on the requirement, roles, regulation governing the work injury compensation scheme and the process. 3, Mr. Speaker, the company has fully complied with the Work Injury Benefits Act of 2007 requirement in terms of compensation and of employees injured at workplace. Honorable Speaker, the committee noted that the company has implemented most of the recommendation of the report of the Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare, except for the wage arrears arising from non-compliant with the legal notice number 91 of 2015, which had been determined to be 3.69 million Kenya shillings. The committee notes that there is also a pending claim for compensation of work-related injuries totaling to about 5.4 million shillings. The committee also observed that the company needed time to implement what they had undertaken to do, especially on improving employees' welfare. When we were there, they had undertaken to us that they will make further improvements to the welfare of the employees, and they required more time to do that. The committee also notes that the company operations had been stopped for 18 months from June 2018 to November 2019. Further, approximately 4,200 acres of land that was issued to the company by the national government was occupied by the squatters. Honorable Speaker, the committee recommends that the company expedites the payment of wage arrears of 3.69 million shillings arising from non-compliance of legal notice number 91 of 2015, that the company should ensure total compliance to the laws, regulations pertaining to employment. Further, the Directorate of Occupational Safety and Health under the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection should expedite the process of pending compensation claims to work related to injuries totaling to, as I said, 5.4 million. Mr. Speaker, further, on squatters living on company land, the committee proposes that the Kwale Sugar Company and the local leadership hold dialogue in order to find an amicable solution, as the company had expressed willingness to allocate some parcels of land to the squatters. And when the late Honorable Member of Parliament, Suleiman Dori, appeared before us, he alluded to this fact that he had engaged the company on this matter. I also want to state that the Honorable Zuleka, who is a county member of parliament, presented this, has had a lot of challenges with this company, including this company taking her to court. And Mr. Speaker, I think we need to be very clear as a parliament that when members of parliament are executing their duties, they need to be protected so that they perform their work. When you present a petition to parliament, you need to be protected as a petitioner, and the person being petitioned against should not turn around and come and start other machinations against you. And I'm sure Honorable Zuleka will be able to talk about that. But all in all, Mr. Speaker, our role as a committee is to simply look at the recommendations of the primary committee and find out whether those recommendations have been implemented or not. We don't go beyond the recommendations that are presented to us as a committee. And as I've explained in detail, most of these recommendations, save for the payment of the claim, have been implemented. But the situations change. One of the challenges we face as a committee is that today you find that recommendations have been implemented. But as you move on, you find that some of these people backtrack on some of the recommendations. That is one of the challenges we face as a committee. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, this is the position of the committee, and I now beg to move, and I request Honorable Silvanus Osoro to second.
The Honorable Osoro.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to second the Committee on Implementation Status on a petition regarding the working conditions at Kwale International Sugar Company Limited. Honorable Speaker, I stand at a very trying moment myself when my name is trending all over as being one of the members of parliament who don't speak in parliament by the naysayers who actually claim that we don't speak. They actually know little of the work that members of parliament do behind the scenes or outside the plenary, including the report that we are seconding here today. Honorable Speaker, Kiscol, as an investor who came to this country to invest, has had, their own positives in terms of employment of people, in terms of providing solutions in the sugar sector, and even in terms of, exposing the Kwale region. However, the Honorable Zuleika's petition opened the other side of Kiscol that most people did not know. And notably, what moved most of the members of this House is on the status of, or rather, the condition to which their employees were working on within the environments of the Kwale International Sugar Company Limited. And even as the Committee on Social Welfare moved, since they were petitioned in the last parliament, they equally had their own challenges. The dodging, hide and seek and hide and everything, and people moving from one side to another, not being able to be reachable for report writing and investigations. But even then, there is always a positive. It's been years, but at the end of the day, the committee came up with a report and moved for the implementation of that particular report. And that is why our committee moved with speed to make sure that we confirm whether it's true, or rather whether the committee, the report and the recommendations by the previous committee or the Committee on Social Welfare was implemented. And as we moved, Honorable Speaker, just like the movers said, I'll not really dwell on what has been done. I'll actually dwell on what hasn't been done. And in my opinion, Mr. Speaker, what has not been done is more important. It's actually what brought the petition to this House. The WIBA, the element of injury. As we recommend that this sugar company implements this element of, work injury benefits, we need to remind them that you cannot realize maximum profit or maximum impact if you do not take care of the people who work for you. It's very shocking that only 3.69 million hasn't been paid in wage arrears. That little amount in all those years, in our opinion, is a delay tactic. Since this issue started, the company was well aware that they had wage arrears that they ought to have paid, which amounts to only 3.69. The company records a huge amount of profits in their operations, and it is shocking that they have not obeyed the legal notice number 91 of 2015 of only 3.69 million shillings, which is very shocking. There's also the issue of compensation, pending compensation of the claims in terms of the work-related claims, which is about 5.4 million. You can imagine that local person who wakes up very early in the morning to go to work and hustle. He hasn't been paid his wage, his compensation upon an injury. It's very important for this company to obey that and make sure that they set on that. But even as I second this motion, I also want to air my voice in regard to the threatening of Honorable Zuleika. Since she brought this petition to this house, she's been threatened. She's even been served with a defamation cause that we are responding to, which is very shocking, that she's been taken to court for merely exercising our constitutional duty as a member of parliament and even as a member representing the Kwale people as a women representative. It's extremely wrong. And we call upon them to pay this amount of money and then also withdraw this threatening defamation cause.
The Honorable Nyego, please second.
And on that note, Honorable Speaker, I beg to second the report.
Honorable members, allow me to propose that this House adopts the report of the Committee on the implementation status of the report of the Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare on a petition regarding deplorable working conditions of workers at the Kwale International Sugar Company Limited, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, November 26th, 2020. Honorable members, the first person on my list is the Honorable Arbele Malimo, member for Laisamis. The Honorable member for Nairobi, what is out of order? The Honorable Arbele, just hold on 1 second.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm looking at the two clocks on the left and on the right. One is saying approaching 10 to 9. The other one is 8:30. So I just wanted to be guided on which clock will the Speaker be following as we move through the process so that we know whether we will actually be reached. Because we've got two different timings on both the clocks in the left and in the right.
The Honorable member for Nairobi, the Speaker is an adherent of the North Star. So he will be guided by the North Star. The Honorable member for Laisamis, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this report, the report of the Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare on the petition regarding the deplorable working condition of workers at the Kwale International Sugar Company Limited. Mr. Speaker, indeed, allegations can be put against any company or investor stating different aspects happening within that company. And indeed, we must also be able to safeguard the investors who happen to bring their money into the country, but without them violating the laws of the country. Mr. Speaker, Kenyans at large are known to be very, very hardworking citizens. And in fact, at some point, Kenyans have been attributed to a working nation, although, indeed, they are also a working nation. They are working because they don't have money in their pockets. Mr. Speaker, a lot of Kenyans who are out there and working in the informal sector are earning very meager salaries. And therefore, they are actually forced, in order to make the ends meet, they have to walk from their areas of residence to their respective places of work. But it is very unfortunate that a company like this one, although this investor has come and he has actually employed quite a number of Kenyan citizens working in that particular industry. However, if you look at what that particular Kenyan is supposed to earn, his hard-earned money, he is denied that very right that you have total of 3.69 million Kenya shillings. They have not been paid those arrears until today. That actually it even worsens the situation at the point where a matter has been taken before a court, and a court has given a verdict that that payment should be made. And until today, the report of the committee states that that money has not been paid, despite the legal notice issued. Mr. Speaker, I am aware that indeed around the country, other sugar companies, for instance, like Nzoia Sugar Company, Mumia Sugar Company, Sony Sugar Company, those companies, just because of mismanagement, they have a lot of sugarcane, which is being grown in that part of the country. But the company is performing dismally to an extent that it is being now under receivership. Mr. Speaker, you can imagine when a company is going under like that, what happens to the employees who have been working there? They also, I am sure, when this Labor Committee will be able to visit that part of the country, then we have a lot to hear also from those other similar companies growing, which are milling sugar. Mr. Speaker, I have also heard in the report that there is work-related injuries which contribute to almost, attribute to almost 5.4 million Kenya shillings, and the list is long. As much as I stand here to support our investors, but equally, those organizations which are the defenders of the employees, like KOTU, and these are the trade unions, they should come out to defend the rights of innocent Kenyans who are hardworking out there. Mr. Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Very well. Member for Nairobi, you are actually next online. I don't know whether you what is out of order?
Mr. Speaker, sir, much as I love my fellow member of parliament and my sister, Ruth Mwaniki, I think I noted that the Sergeant of Arms had actually come and told her that she's inappropriately dressed. I know she's been campaigning very hard for the candidate for Jubilee in Kiambaa constituency, but she's not only wearing a promotional campaign T-shirt for Jubilee underneath her coat, but she's also wearing techies in the house, which I don't think are the appropriate dress code. So while we support the Jubilee candidate, I don't think that she's appropriately dressed, and I think that when the Sergeant of Arms asked her to leave, she should not have stayed, even though she's very exhausted from campaigning.
Yes, the honorable member, the Honorable Mwaniki is not appropriately dressed. The Honorable Rose Mwaniki, you are not appropriately
Mr. Speaker,
dressed.
sir, you can see there is a court, Mr. Speaker, sir, and whatever is underneath the court should not be my honorable sister's concern. Because as you can see, I'm in pink, and the Jubilee colors are actually red.
The Honorable Mwaniki is not a point of argument. Kindly just retreat until you are appropriately dressed, then you can resume the House.
How, I thought the other day, Mr. Speaker, we saw a nude uniform here. Anyway, it's just a simple Jubilee shirt. But, Mr. Speaker, I beg to live with all the respect. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Kindly. We shall have the Honorable Hassan Juma, member for Kwale.
Asante sana Bwana Spika kwa kunipatia nafasi hii kuchangia mswada huu. Na nataka kushukuru kamati ya utekelezaji kwa kuleta ripoti hii bungeni. Kwa kweli mswada huu umekuwa ukizungumzwa, ama malalamishi haya yamekuwa yakizungumzwa kwa muda mrefu hapa bungeni na kuchunguzwa toka mwaka 2015 nilipoleta malalamishi haya hapa bungeni. Nataka kuzungumzia baadhi ya mapendekezo ya kamati hii na kusema pia vile hali ilivyo mashinani. Lakini kabla niseme hiyo, pia nataka tu nijulishe bunge kuwa kwa sababu ya malalamishi haya, kwa niaba ya wafanyakazi wa kampuni hii ya Kwale International Sugar Company, kampuni hiyo imenipeleka kotini kunishtaki kwa kuwaharibia jina. Katika kuzungumzia mapendekezo ya kamati ni kuwa kwanza walizungumzia kuwa barua hazijaandikwa kwa wafanyakazi ambao wamekaa hapo, ambao wako hapo, na nataka kueleza bunge kuwa hadi sasa hawajaandikwa kazi, na hususan najua kampuni imekuwa ikitoa makaratasi ya ama contract za wale ambao wanaandika wanaofanya kazi maofisini, lakini wale wanaofanya kazi katika mashamba ndio wameumia zaidi na bado hawajaandikwa, na wala kampuni hiyo haijaleta ushahidi wowote kwa kamati hiyo au kwa bunge kuonesha kuwa wamesha waajiri wafanyakazi hao wa mashambani. Kwa hivyo kuhusiana na masala ya wafanyakazi ambao wamefanya hapo kwa muda mrefu, kampuni hii imeajiri watu kwa kama casuals, inasemekana, yani wafanyakazi wa muda mfupi kwa miaka mingi, na katika sheria za nchi yetu huruhusiwi kumweka mtu kama hivyo kwa muda mrefu, na kuna wengine wako hapo wanafanya kazi miaka 9, miaka 10, 11 na bado hawajapewa contract. Na pia kama kamati ilivyoonyesha hiyo ripoti, bado hawajaandikwa mpaka sasa kuwekwa kwenye contract hao wafanyakazi. Mwanzo zaidi wamesimamishwa kazi ghafla bila kuambiwa kwaendelea nini, hawaitwi tena kazini wengi wao. Kwa hivyo badili ya kuwa waandikiwe hizo contracts, wameachwa na hawajijui wako wapi. Kuna 6-9, na kama ripoti ya kamati ilivyosema, hizo fedha pia mpaka leo hazijalipwa, na wanadai kuwa hawajaona hao wafanyikazi, lakini wengi wao ni watu ambao wanaishi tu hizo sehemu, na iwapo kweli wangetaka msaada kuwapata, ingekuwa wangeomba ofisi kadhaa wa kadhaa na wananchi pia wa sehemu hiyo kuweza kuwatafuta, na bila shaka wangepata wenyewe ambao wana hizi pesa wakaweza kuwalipa. Pendekezo la 3 linazungumza kuhusu mavazi ya kuwalinda ili kupata majeruhi kazini, na kuna baadhi wamenunuliwa lakini wengi bado. Hata ile siku kamati ilipoenda huko mashinani, nadhani kuko tarehe 7 mwezi wa 3 mwaka 2019, kamati hii ya utekelezaji waliona wao wenyewe kuwa baadhi ya wafanyakazi walikuwa bado hawajavaa. Na masala ya choo, hakuna vyoo bado shambani, na pia masala ya usafiri, siku hizi hawapeani kabisa usafiri. Kwa hivyo na usipoenda kazini kwa sababu hakuna usafiri na ni mbali na mishahara yao ni midogo, basi hakuna kazi. Kwa hivyo hiyo masala ya usafiri wamechukua kama sababu moja pia ya kuachisha, na sana sana wameachisha kazi watu ambao ni wazaliwa wa Kwale County. Hivi sasa wameajiri wafanyakazi wengi kutoka magharibi ya nchi hii, na hao ndo ambao wako kazini sasa, wakiacha wale wenyeji pale hawana kazi. Na kwa hivyo kwa ufupi nataka kusema kuwa sijafurahishwa na ripoti hii na mapendekezo. Kuko naomba kuwe na hatia zaidi ama walazimisho zaidi, kwa sababu vile wanavyosema pia kwa ripoti hiyo, mpaka sasa kampuni hiyo haijatekeleza, na ndio maana unaona wanaongezewa siku, wanaambiwa.
The Honorable Zuleka, you'll have a minute to wind down. You'll have an extra minute.
Asante sana kwa kuniongezea muda. Kwa hivyo nasema kuko naomba kuwa kamati wangepeana yani adhabu kali zaidi, kwa sababu hawajaonesha katika yote haya, hawajaonesha kitu alichofanya, na ni muhimu kwetu sisi kutetea haki za wafanyikazi hawa, na pia hawako kwenye trade union yoyote. Kwa hivyo kwa ufupi, licha ya kazi waliofanya kamati, lakini kampuni hii imeonesha kuwa hawana nia na kutekeleza, na naomba vitengo vingine vya serikali viweze kuchukua hatua na kufuatiliza zaidi kuhakikisha kuwa haki za wafanyakazi wa Kenya zinasimamishwa. Asante sana.
The Honorable Zuleka, I've had because of the work that you do as a member of parliament. I think that members of parliament are protected in the work that they do as members of this house, representatives of the people. I hope you will have good representation in court to be able to vindicate that, the work that members of parliament do and do for the people, that this is a legal house, and it's a house that represents the views of Kenyans, and you cannot be antagonized or prevented from doing this work. And we encourage you to continue doing your work. We shall have contribution from the Honorable Ibrahim Sahal, nominated member.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipatia hii nafasi. Yangu ni machache. Mheshimiwa Spika, maisha ya wafanyakazi wa Kenya ni bora sana kwa katiba yetu. Mheshimiwa Spika, watu wanabiashara wanatoka nchi zingine kukuja kunyanyasa watu yetu. Mheshimiwa Spika, kampani hawezi weka watu maka 11 wafanye kazi bila kupatia hawa kuduma ama permanent. Mheshimiwa Spika, lazima tuangalie maisha na maslaha ya wafanyakazi wa Kenya. Hata kampani kama wanalete pesa kwetu, lazima wachunge maisha ya binadamu, pande ya kazi na vile kutumia choo, kuosha mkono na maneno mbalimbali. Kwa hiyo machache naunga mkono. Asante.
The Honorable Mwambire, member for Ganze.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, Mr. Speaker, though I support the report, but I feel the committee was very lenient on their recommendations, observing what they saw on the ground and the reality that we know as people from the region whom have been interacting with those employees, and especially those who, after reporting to the women rep or the county MP, the company thought it was wise for them to terminate their service so that at least they will not be giving more information concerning what is happening in the company. And Mr. Speaker, I think this is the reason why the company has resorted to employ more people from outside the county, so that at least they will not be having a direct link with the local leadership. Mr. Speaker, I think the committee should have come up with very serious recommendations. Even though we support what they recommended, I also think that even after 3 months, which is the 90 days they have recommended, there will be a clear follow-up after adoption of this report, because I feel this committee has a tendency of, the company has a tendency of playing around with the people. You can imagine, Mr. Speaker, the company started its operations in 2015. From 2015 up to now, they have not come up with the clear contract letters, or they have not employed most of them. So some of them are just in between, and they don't know their fate. So I think, apart from the push that the committee has come up with, the Ministry of Labor should also be looked at. We should also, Mr. Speaker, look at the officers in charge of a labor office in Kwale County, how long they have been there and what they are doing actually, because some have overstayed and some have been conduits with some of the investors. That's why we normally have some cases which are not very clear. Mr. Speaker, you can even check, when the committee went there, they still found that a number of employees are still claiming, especially the workman's compensation has not been looked at. And this is, I believe, after them having some issues, they normally go to the labor office. And when they go to the labor office, they're compromised. So I think we need to go deeper, especially when the committee goes down, they should go deeper and get some information from the labor office so that at least we can understand what is happening. And in case we realize that the labor officers are the ones who also trying to play around with those investors, they should also be given an opportunity. They should also be given some recommendations on what they should do, on whether they should be transferred or interdicted. Because if they also stay between to make sure that the local people, all the employees are not getting their rights, then that is a very serious issue which, Mr. Speaker, should also be looked at. Because I really suspect, though I have no proof, Mr. Speaker, but I suspect most of these issues happen simply because the local labor officers are not taking their work seriously. Mr. Speaker, because my sister and Honorable Zulea have been taken to court, I think Parliament should also play a role in one way or the other, apart from leaving the case, leaving that such issues with a particular member of Parliament. The Parliamentary Service Commission should have should come up with proper measures to safeguard the interests of the members of Parliament, because I think it is not fair when a member brought an issue or petition, like the petition brought by Honorable Zuleha, and thereafter Honorable Zuleha is exposed to the extent of using a lot of money to pay for the councils, among other issues, Mr. Speaker. So I think the Parliamentary Service Commission should also consider taking up such matters so that at least members can feel free, because in one way or the other, it is like trying to intimidate members so that they don't take up some issues in their respective areas. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support the report.
The Honorable Odege. Member for Nyatik. Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice on this issue of our good workers at Kwale. Listening to the report, I want support the report, but with a number of issues, especially the issues raised touching on the workers. Those who know me well will know that I've been in trade unions movement for the better part of my working life. And when I see a worker being oppressed, I really feel, because we have come across a number of cases in this country where our own people become slaves in our own country. Like today, we are talking about an investor. And this investor, we want to talk about a person who is a foreigner working in our come to invest in our country, and at the same time, violating our own laws in this country, and nobody's outside there to take action on them. By not paying workers after getting a court order on the same, then we ask ourselves, do we have a government? If you have a government, who is supposed to implement these court orders? If we don't implement them, then what do we expect from the workers? Can we allow them to carry law into their hands and ban the factory? The answer is no. Then there is somebody who is sleeping on the job. We cannot operate in a country whereby people may think that we don't have laws. We have enough laws to protect the workers. Labor laws in this country are there. One of our colleagues here said that labor movement, the trade unions, he mentioned Kotu, that they should do more. What do you expect from a trade union to do on a company where a court order has been violated? When we reach that level, it's now beyond a trade union. It's now squarely with the government. So if our own workers got an award and the government has not implemented this award and have not implemented using the laws which we have currently, because we don't have any vacuum in law, the problem is that somebody is sleeping on the job. And I don't think it is right for this parliament today to entertain such kind of omissions in our country, because these foreigners will come and overpower us, and we are going to be slaves in our own country. So me, I want to ask my colleague, who is the MP for Kwale, that where this thing has reached, because we are discussing a case which is almost over 10 years now, there is need, after admitting this report here today, we look for an avenue to reopen this thing afresh so that we deal with it. Because if you allow such things to continue in our country, I can assure you foreigners will come in this country, like now where the unemployment rate is very high, where you can be told in your own county, if you don't want, you can as well leave. We will get people from outside to come and do the job. Then they exploit our people because our people are desperately looking for the job. This is an act which we should not accept in our country, and especially if we are discussing in this house a report which has been made by our own committees, which we are implementing in this house today, and we know very well we are implementing a report which is not being reflective of what's happening outside there. Me, I would request that the member for Kwale should look for an opportunity to reopen this case so that we revisit it. Because I sit in the Labour Committee today. This case was in the Labour Committee of the previous Parliament. We might not now have opportunity to exploit it. Now, because of time, I thank you and I support.
There being no further interest in this, I ask the Honorable Soti to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have listened to the views of the members, and particularly Honorable Zuleka, and I think they are very, very genuine views. And I want to agree that some of the issues here are still works in progress, including payment of compensation for the workers, which has not been paid to date, though the management had made an undertaking to us that they were going to pay. Also, the issue of issuance of contract, which they had indicated to us that they were going to issue contracts from March 2020, but they suspended that exercise because of COVID-19. I think it's an issue that needs to be taken up. And Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier, as a committee, our role as per the standing order number 209 is to simply indicate whether a resolution has been implemented or not, and where it has been implemented, to what extent. I think when time comes for the review of the standing orders, I think that area we need to look at so that the committee is given more powers to act even after giving the report. But in the current situation, I want to support Honorable Odege that maybe the primary committee, which is the Committee of Labor, may need to restart this process because of the pending issues which have not been implemented. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I beg to reply.
Honorable members, for good reason, I direct that the next necessary steps in regard to this report to be undertaken when the matter will be set down on the order paper again. Honorable members, that being the last business on the order paper, and the time being 9:12, p.m., this House stands adjourned until Thursday, the 1st of July 2021 at 2:30 p.m.